killing brush. I've got him at gunpoint.
They're pulling them out.
911. Advise ready for it. Can't put.
God!
Hey, question for you.
Okay.
Do you remember? I mean, this was years and years ago. Do you remember Arco biting some female that hit my dad in the head with a pan on some call? Or someone? Or no? Yeah, no, that's right.
Pretty sure you made that up.
No way.
It's not looking good.
For the record,
No
for the record,
way.
Anne remembers everything.
Okay.
She remembers everything.
Okay, somehow Charlie and I know the same story,
The two retards.
and we're not. and
But here's the thing, John. I told you 20 years ago that I got bit by a cougar when I was on a bike ride, and you believed it probably until right this very moment.
That's true.
I don't even remember that one.
Yeah, remember the friggin' lines across the back
I got
of her
bit by a
cat?
cougar
I
the
don't
other
remember.
day. She was hot.
Yeah, no, I don't.
It's possible that your dad told you that story, but it wasn't true. That makes
What?
Ask her about ask her about him coming home with stitches. Ask her
Yeah,
about
ask her. Yeah,
ask her
if
about
she's
the
ever seen
butterflies.
any with butterflies.
Have you ever seen him with like any type of stitches or like one of those little butterfly bandages on his eyebrow?
on his eyebrow.
Thank you. What? Thank you. Don't you think I would remember if I ever got hit with a fucking
You
frying
can't
pan?
hear him.
Okay, here's the other. Hang on, you guys. There's always the Mandela effect.
Oh, let's not go there.
Oh, we can't do that.
Down the rabbit
It's a
hole we
locker
go.
room
All
episode.
right, we'll talk about this maybe later. But Charlie and I have the same story somehow, and we're not even with each other, right? But somehow we know.
They have this story, and I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. So,
I got
Hey, you told it to me.
really.
if I had butterflies on my forehead, she would have known.
I know. That's why I called her.
Okay, well, now you guys can. You're talking about someone else.
All right.
Elliot, you don't even remember meeting my dad.
What?
You don't remember
There's the
meeting my dad.
definitive answer.
Of course I know your dad.
I thought. Oh, I was overhearing. I thought you said you didn't meet my dad before. You didn't.
No,
you
no,
met him or something.
it was Thomas.
No, I think you were on the episode with my dad.
Right?
I met him once.
Yeah, that's the one time.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I thought
Did you ever tell the story? I mean, I guess I can ask you on here because it'd be great to tell it. If
Yeah,
you
we're
haven't told
going.
it.
So
All right. Well, then press play because I want to ask this.
I did.
question.
We're going.
Oh,
Welcome to
if,
War Stories. I'm Tom.
Hey,
I'm
okay.
Chuck.
And there's John and Elliot and Chris, and we're back for 201.
Well, I can't hear the thing where it goes. It's recording, but
Yeah,
I
you're right.
can't see it.
Okay, it's recording.
Because it doesn't do that because I'm
Thanks.
recording it here on my end.
Did you ever tell the story of when you
Wait, we didn't do the
We're
intro,
working-
Charlie.
You didn't have to go.
Welcome to another episode of War Stories. I'm Tom.
Chuck? You can't stop making me fucking say this thing. God damn.
Okay, so it is one of the highlights of my life to watch two friends who have been homies as long as you guys have just go at it. It's hilarious. But it's for those of you that listen to the Locker Room and you know that Matt and I go after each other and Marco and I go after each other. And now Chuck goes, so it's all good.
Poor Charlie. Go on, Charlie.
Okay.
Are you talking to me or you talking to John?
I'm talking to you.
Okay. I hope
Oh, with a balding head.
Okay. I hope I
Balding.
remember this.
That's voluntary.
Hey, Charlie, take off your hat.
I'm. Fuck you.
How old are you, Charlie?
I got Dr. Phil haircut.
Yeah.
But did you, when you were coming from Whittier and you went to South LA, and then from South LA you got into some fucking on probation, you got into a fight, I think it was Harbor Division, by the railroad tracks, and you were basically fighting with a handcuffed suspect. And this is what always taught me.
Oh, I
that,
remember this.
You
the guy
know,
that busted your elbow.
people
Broke
can
my
fight
arm,
if
yeah.
you're fucking handcuffed, right? Because he.
Oh yeah, I remember this. I don't know if I
Yeah,
ever
so
So
told that
let's save
story.
it for short
Can you
stories.
tell it?
We're gonna save that for short stories because we got a couple of.
Oh.
We didn't get to some of the
Oh.
listener favorites.
shit's
I kind of took a poll of some of the listener favorites. Obviously, the wood chipper story is an all-time listener favorite. I mean, you don't get much better than strawberry cheesecake coming out the back of a wood chipper. Lobster claw. Do you guys remember lobster claw?
I do remember.
Why does
Lobster
that sound
Claw.
familiar?
Yeah, that was what's his name?
James.
James.
Yeah,
Yes.
James. James was a medic. He's artillery in the army. Got out, worked as a medic on the bus, And it's kind of timely in what's going on in today's society. I believe it was LA County Sheriff calls him. It's on the south end. A tranny had been picked up by a vato, and this banger had paid him for head, and then reached under the hood to,
surprise,
wedding tackle, and got so pissed off he took a machete and went after this tranny hooker with a machete, and brought the machete down on her hand his hand in between some. I still have the picture if you want to see it. He sent it to me, but brought the machete down between the digits, split the hand like a lobster claw.
Yeah.
And then it went so deep that it got through the hand and into the collarbone. And then the cops came and he ran, and James had to treat this
Lobster claw.
Jesus.
Yeah. So that was one of the favorites that stuck out for people. I think and then a lot of people wrote in saying they liked the Marines in Afghanistan series. I think because they got to follow the whole story.
They got a bigger picture rather than just
bigger
one
picture
little story. Yeah.
And then that was a tough one for us because we're not used to sticking with something for that long of a period of time, and so to some extent we were like, oh shit, there's more. Yeah.
And almost like different characters coming in to fill in different parts.
Right, exactly. So that was an interesting. I wouldn't be opposed to doing a series. We didn't when we got into it. We didn't know how long it was going to go. We were like, okay, we'll come back next week and we'll hear another story. So that was kind of crazy. So those were, I think, the three most. That's the top three of what we got people saying, which is interesting because one of those firefighter story, one of those medic story, one's Marine story. But we've shared a lot of cop stories, and I think by far my favorite cop stories have been do you remember we had your friend who went to the Santa Barbara Virgin Killer?
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Yeah. And
Derek.
Yeah. Derek came on, and we knew some of the same. Again, we knew some.
He was brand new.
Brand
spanking new.
Yeah. And we knew some of the same. Again, Derek and I knew some of the same people because his sheriff's department was old. And it was even funny because he had heard about my incident because people still talked about it down there, even though he never met me. And he was like, "Oh shit, that was you." So I just remember hearing about that whole incident with the Virgin Killer. For those of you who don't know, it was a kid named Elliot, I think.
I don't remember.
Coincidentally enough. And it was like autistic as shit, mentally unbalanced, went to Santa Barbara, couldn't get a girlfriend his entire life, went to Santa Barbara, still couldn't get a girlfriend, and decided that women were evil and it was all their fault and they should pay, and then bought a couple of nice guns and went on a killing spree in Isla Vista in UC Santa Barbara. And I remember Derek had shared stories, and it was one of those like, oh, you were there firsthand, like the bicyclist that went through the windshield. I didn't know that had happened.
Yeah, same.
And so hearing some of those stories where you hear those little details about, oh shit, I never thought about that side of it, or I'm surprised I didn't even think. Like you even said, oh, I never thought about that until just now. You said the last episode with. I'm surprised at how many times, even as many things as we've all seen, we still hear a story and we're like, oh shit, I never thought about that. I don't know. I guess maybe that's just me.
Because not many things are going to put it into perspective in the moment, right?
Right.
So like you just live the moment, and then a week, a month, a year later, something happens, and it kind of puts that one moment in perspective, and you're like, oh,
right.
Interesting.
Or you hear about it on the news, but you don't personalize it.
Sure.
Until, like, if we were to have the guys who took out the Nashville Christian school shooter, the she shooter over there.
That's a dude, right? Or a female. That one was the female.
So that was what I was. I was
female.
so confused about it
because it came out
that it was a female who wanted to be a male,
right?
And early on, I thought, oh, it's a male that wants to be a female,
no.
but it was
a
the
female.
opposite, which actually made it interesting that it was because females are rarely school shooters.
Yeah.
Which actually made me wonder if that person was already on hormone therapy.
Looked like it.
Because you take testosterone, it'll make you angry.
Well, you never know.
Right.
We're not going to know.
No, we're not going to know.
Of course not.
I mean, shit, we still don't know whether the Vegas shooter did what he did.
He's had a bad day at the table. Right.
Which brings up, do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Route 90.
The concert?
Yes,
Route 91.
Yeah.
Route 91. We had
someone who was there on.
Yeah, we had a guest on.
Yeah, it was a guy that I worked with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, sitting there watching him talk about the carnage in front of him and his frustration of being off duty.
Oh, you're helpless. I mean, I wasn't there, but
No,
that's-
I can
it's
imagine.
helpless. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Even if you had your gun on you,
There's nothing you can
what
do.
are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right.
Helpless.
Rifle from halfway up a high story, a high rise
Yeah, what are you gonna
building.
do?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's, that guy might as well have been in an enemy helicopter
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was him or if it was another guy that we worked with. I know they were together at the concert, and before the first thing that happened to them was just someone's head exploded right in front of them. That was like the first thing.
Like you're standing there, yeah, Jason Aldean, and then
And then it was
explodes,
almost like,
and-
what the fuck? And then they're like, and then it kind of everything just kind of starts
Right.
hitting the fan.
Well, because if you think about
Remember
it,
Alan Ashley?
Huh?
Alan Ashley, remember them?
no, you could say it in the mic.
Alan Ashley, remember them?
Ellen Ashley. Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
Ashley.
Yeah.
They were
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, they were there. Yeah.
They were there, and one of them went to the bathroom when the shit hit the fan.
Oh, really?
So they were separated.
Oh.
What a fucking nightmare!
I think our guest got separated from his wife,
What a fucking nightmare!
No, he went back.
And he went-
got,
had to-
he got her out.
Oh,
and
that's
went
right.
Back
He
in.
went back in.
Yeah, and then went back in.
That's what it was. I mean, that
We had
episode
someone
sticks
else
out
on
for me.
too.
Yeah.
Yep. He got shot
Yes.
while he was there.
Wow.
I can't even. Like, there's some circumstances that are just way beyond your control, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
But we still don't know, why the fuck that happened. So I think we've covered. I don't know. We've got a lot of votes, some individual episodes and stuff like that, but most of them have been about big stuff like, major news events where people are like, holy shit, you talked to somebody that did this or did that or whatever. Which has also been, for me, cool, to be able to talk to these people. I've enjoyed, I think.
Well, that was the original plan, right? It was that everyone sees these stories and everyone gets to hear about these things in the news or third, fourth, fifth, sixth party.
Right.
But no one ever really gets the real story of the people that were there.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the conception of
Yeah.
this.
We talked about that. There's a human behind all those stories. There's a human being who experienced it as a father, a son, a daughter, a mother, a wife, a husband,
Yeah, and for me personally, going back to the 9/11 stuff,
Right.
nobody knew about that shit. But
Right.
and I was just one of. There were like 100 of us,
Right.
that were dealing with that shit every day, and nobody knew about it.
Right.
No, nobody had any idea what the fuck was really happening.
I don't think anyone
Nobody cared.
Nobody still knows anything about it.
Probably not.
No,
Yeah.
that was one of the most surprising. That was honestly one of the most surprising episodes to me, where it was like,
And that was
clues
just
you into-
one.
yeah,
That
that
was
clues
just
you into
one.
how much shit goes on every day.
Yeah.
I mean, we just had an incident up here. Old man shoots young man
That was legit, by
through
the
the
way.
windshield
That was legit.
of a car.
Smoked him.
Smoked him
Legit.
like a Christmas ham.
Well, I think it's
Well,
That
I'll tell
guy
you
was
more
probably
about-
waiting his whole life to do that.
I'll tell you more about it off air.
Oh, you got some more?
I
think
don't
it's
know.
really
It depends on what you
important-
have, but yeah.
What did you say, Charlie?
Oh, I know. Is he was doing a
think
moving
it's-
failure drill on the guy while he was on the hood.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to hear these stories. Like people always say, like you were touching on it, John. People always hear this from a third or fourth or fifth party, or however many times removed, or they see it on the news and they see a bad clip and they just see someone getting shot by the police or something like that, and then you actually hear the stories and how things transpired and what led up to that. That evident shooting. And it brings a different light onto things. It opens people's eyes up, and it shows that these people are humans. They're real people, and they're not just these fucking robots. that are out just killing people. You know what I mean? Like there are specific facts that led up to that moment, and it's important for people to hear those things. So I think, and it's cathartic too. Other people hear what's going on. They hear the struggle, not just the incident, but what took place after that incident, whatever they're struggling with. And that's cathartic to a lot of people because maybe they didn't tell it out loud, but that's exactly what they're struggling with. You know what I mean?
I will. So we talked about this early on, John, is that there's a moment where whether you're a veteran or you've seen combat as a veteran, or if you're a police officer who's, arrested bad guys or taking kids away from their parents or just seen awful crime scenes, or a firefighter been to accidents and all this stuff. You go to a party, right? And I don't think we've talked about this in a long time, but we have talked about it. You go to a party and somebody's like, "Oh, you're a such and such. You're a cop? You're a veteran? You're a Marine? You're a firefighter? Tell me about, tell me something from your job. Tell me what's the craziest thing that you've ever seen? What's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you?" For me, and I'm probably for you guys, there's a moment where you're like, I can't tell you. Like, I'm going to go to the craziest thing I've ever seen. Then I'm going to dial it back by 80%.
Oh, yeah. Because your civilian brain cannot handle it.
And then I'm going to tell you
it.
even like just the smidgen of a crazy story. Yeah. And I'm going to still watch you squirm as halfway through the story you're like, this is making me uncomfortable, and I didn't realize it was. And you're like, that's nothing.
Yeah, it's like you go to tell them that story, and then it gets real fucking quick for them, and they're like, it just got awkward, and you can see your stomach churn.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, you like that. You like that, huh, fucker? Next time I'm gonna ask.
So what's your civilian party off the cuff story there, Chuck?
I talk about seeing people dead, like kids and shit dead. If they're like, "Oh, what's the craziest thing you ever seen?" I'm like, "Well,
that'll blow
straight to kid death?
That'll blow the mood right there, bud.
Whatever." And then they're just like, "Wow." I'm like, "Well, don't ask, man." Or they ask, like, "Hey, we've shot someone." Yeah, and you just nonchalantly tell them like what happened, but a small blurb of it because you don't want to really get into it. Or because I walk around with this fucking brace on, or when I had crutches. How'd you injure yourself? Oh, I tripped. And then I go into the story of how I tripped. And then the one dude was like, what the fuck? That was crazy. And I'm like, not really, dude. That's just.
Well, you were high as shit getting wheeled into surgery talking about killing people.
Oh, fuck. I forgot about that. Oh, shit.
Wait, did you guys hear this?
I came out of surgery, and this lady.
That would be Charlie.
Yeah, right?
She goes, "So you're a cop?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "What's the craziest thing you've ever dealt with?" And I don't remember what I was saying on the podcast because I think I was pretty high at the time, off meds. But I started telling her that shit, and then she got real awkward real quick, and then just kind of like left me alone. And I was like, "My bad. I didn't mean to ruin it."
You don't remember what it
I just
was?
started going into it.
No, he went into his shooting.
Oh,
And
okay,
like
right.
he's high as shit. She's like, "Oh, what's the crazy story?" He's like, "I fucking killed this dude."
This fucking fat black fuck in the alleyway that decided to crank around on.
He's like, "Oh,
That's
I'm like,
interesting. I mean, we've all been there, right? That moment where you're looking at somebody. Do you guys take a sick pleasure in watching people squirm a little bit when they ask you dumb questions?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
To be honest, I don't talk about stuff.
I don't either.
Like, I don't. I think
I don't either. But if I'm in the right setting and somebody asks me the right
Like
way,
you're high as a kite.
We're not in
yeah, the thing
High
is,
as a
so like
kite.
this, and it makes it so awkward. Like, I've had so many conversations with my wife about this, because she's a social butterfly and wants me to meet all these people all the time through church and through all this stuff. And like, I already know what's coming my way, right? I already know the questions are coming. I already know people, like, they come over and then they see things like up on the wall, or, I don't know, like, and then they want to ask questions. But I mean, to be completely honest, I just don't talk. Like, I just will not. I don't entertain it. Not because I can talk about it. Like, I can talk to you guys about it. I can talk. It's not because I can't talk
well,
about
that's
it. But
why
it's
we
almost
started
like,
this, because we can talk to each other.
Yeah, it's almost like I
They don't have
almost
the
take
privilege?
it. Huh?
They don't have the privilege to know.
No,
it's not that.
No.
You don't want to deal with the shit that's coming with it when you
Oh man,
talk
no,
about it.
no. It's like, oh man, like I don't like it's personal to me. Like, it's so personal to me that's something that I would only share with people that I care about, or
I don't give a shit about you, so why would I tell you this?
100%.
yeah, like there's no impact on this person, right? And this person has no impact on my life, and vice versa. It makes them. It makes no difference to me, and probably to them. How are they? Like, oh, let me grab my 1911. This shit's got bodies on it. Like, how does that? What does that do for them?
Yeah, you might as well tell it
No, and
in
I don't
Greek
mean that.
because it'd be the same effect.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. It's almost like I'm wasting my time by telling
Yeah,
them
right.
something. Right.
I've just learned that I've tried to be social with people, and
That's what makes you different.
It is what makes me.
I know. Absolutely. That's a good thing.
but-
But that's a good thing.
No, I mean I've tried to, like my wife. I've really tried not to be withdrawn, and because I was never withdrawn before. I was, shit. People know I've acted. I've been on stage as a musician. I've sung in front of thousands of people. It's not in my nature to just be withdrawn. But then that was the weird part. Is I also think everybody in the world is an asshole.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people, like, being a cop wasn't hard to do because I looked at most people and was like, you're a fucking idiot and you're an asshole anyway. So it's a natural progression. I just all of a sudden was in a point where if people wanted to talk to me about my life, I couldn't. Like, it was a weird thing for me where I was like, fuck. Like, I'm used to just being willing to talk to people. And now when I do, it gets real fucking awkward real fucking fast. And so I had to relearn how to be social with people. And if obviously being social is in my nature, as opposed to some people, it just isn't. I'm an extrovert. But it was a very steep learning curve.
Sure.
if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know another way to put it.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
Just don't have friends. That's it. Simple. Or very few. Or very few. Yeah, very small handful.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is I used to have like a lot of acquaintances and a couple of core friends. And over the years, I've just gotten rid of the acquaintances.
Just get weeded out a little.
Yeah.
The other thing too is, and I was trying to figure out how to put this in words, and I think I finally figured it out. Was that I feel like
words are hard.
I know words are hard sometimes, but like I've been around a lot of people in my life that have gone through so much more than I have that it's almost like if I tell people something and they're like, "Holy fuck, dude, you're cool as fuck," I'm just like, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not."
Yeah,
I'm
I get that too.
I'm nobody.
I understand that.
Like I'm a nobody. So I don't want to like take that like prestigious like, "Oh, look what I fucking did." I don't know.
Well, I can totally see that because when I talk to people, and I remember specifically having a conversation with somebody, and they were like, "Oh my god, that's amazing! You're this." And I'm like, "You have no fucking idea. Like I'm nothing. Like you want to hear fucking like I'll inch. It's what is it? The old expression: I'm not a hero, but I served in the company of heroes. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think of myself that way.
So since we're on the podcast, remember we had this issue, and I don't remember who was on because I know we're talking about past episodes or whatever. And I remember it's happened a few times, but one guy in particular, and I remember talking to you afterwards, and I'm like, dude, I can't do this shit. I'm like, that guy, all he wanted to do was fucking talk about himself, and I get him telling stories.
No,
but like,
I know exactly.
But it was
so I know who
different.
you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, but it was like different. It was just like me. Look at me. Like this is my time to shine. Everyone's gonna hear me. Like I was like, I can't do this. Like
You want to be humble,
huh?
You want to be humble. You don't want to ever come off as the cocky dick, right?
But I think what he's saying is that meeting people that are the opposite of that, where they actually are into, like, it's.
Like, we could talk shit about Sean. Like Sean listens to this, right?
I don't know if he does.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we've had Sean on,
Right.
Right. Sean.
Poor Sean. He's not here to defend himself.
No, but let's.
I know what you're about to say.
When we had him on. Because as social, and here was the reason I had him on. Socially, we hung out with him, and he said he had stories to share. And John was like, "Cool, let's share the stories." Well, I was like, "Cool, let's share the stories." And John was like, "Yeah, we can have him on." And you were trying to be nice,
Yeah.
right?
He's just over the
And
top.
he sat down, and we said, "Go," and
I remember this.
nothing.
I remember this.
Nothing came out. It was like pulling teeth. And I remember talking to you about it later, and you were like, "Yeah, everything that happened to him happened to somebody else next to him."
He always had really good stories about loss prevention and how he'd watch the cameras at Kohl's.
fucked up.
I'm gonna bleep the name just so you know.
That was
Yes,
fucked
absolutely.
up.
Yes, please do.
Totally
Yeah, no, I'm
fucked up.
bleeping the name,
Got to.
But we all know. I think we all know that guy, right?
I think we all know the same guy, apparently.
So
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
trying to figure out
Or a
how
version
to
of
word-
him.
Okay, so I know a guy who, we both came from a law enforcement background, and we've both met in a professional capacity in the last year, and we're stuck being around each other on a regular basis.
Dude, I'm right here.
It's not you, 100%.
Good, good. All right.
And he
Don't re-traumatize him.
So we in this capacity we're both around the same actual active duty police officer, and he and I have talked, this police officer and I have talked about the fundamental difference between the two of us. And I said, this guy's like, yeah, he's law enforcement background. Oh yeah, I come from law enforcement, this and anything. And I looked at this cop later on and I went, 100% he didn't make probation. 100% he didn't make probation. 100. I'm not giving up. Like
You can pick them out.
and so within the first 3 months of knowing him, got into some discussions, and the stories turned to how he decided to leave his career in law enforcement. And you know the code words, right? Oh, I had 11 months on and I decided to
wasn't for
leave.
me.
It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
11 months sounds better than less than a year.
Yeah. Well, and for most people, probation is 12 months to
They were about to fire
12 to
him.
18 months.
They were about to fire him.
And that's when they're like, things aren't working out.
right. Right.
You have a couple of options. We can get rid of you or you can quit. We all know those guys. We all know the veterans. But what's amazing to me is like what you're saying. We just had an episode. Chuck couldn't even make it. He was on vacation. I interviewed a young Marine. He's literally the youngest Marine, most recent Marine we've had on this show. Was a Marine during COVID. Like went through MCRD in 2017 or 2018. And we had him on to talk about what MCRD is like now. Like we've talked shit about, the fucking stress card and this and that. He was actually able to speak to, I've been through training and I've seen what Marines since me have gone through in training. And here's what is actually going on. And it was very disheartening.
I would imagine.
Very disheartening. He is not that guy. He is one of those guys, like he's got a friend that he went to training with and she was killed in the botched fucking withdrawal. Nicole G. Right? Just famous picture on social media of this young Marine holding a baby.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, he knows her. Knew her.
Sorry.
And he feels guilt. He carries guilt about not being deployed. He carries guilt about not getting sent. Doesn't, he doesn't put the globe and anchor on every fucking thing he owns. He doesn't, he's not, being a Marine is not this rah, I'm a poster child. Because for him, it's, I'm not a hero. I just served in the company of heroes. But yet we all know the guys you're talking about, John, that they're the best cop in the world. Just ask them.
Yeah, exactly. Just ask them.
And
a lot of times you don't even have to ask them.
Well, that's true too. I find what's the? Did you guys ever hear the joke? I don't know if you guys ever heard the joke. There's 3 cowboys sitting around. My grandfather told me this. 3 cowboys sitting around a campfire. First cowboy says, "Yeah, I got shot, patched myself up, rode into town, and let the doctor stitch me up with no anesthetic." And the second cowboy says, "That's nothing. I got bit by a snake, sucked the poison out of myself. Horse got bit by a snake, sucked the poison out of the horse, rode the horse back to town, got patched up." And the third cowboy just sat there quietly stoking the fire with his dick. And my grandfather told me that story, and it stuck with me my entire life to think, if you are about it, you don't need to talk about it.
Nope.
But yet, when we're getting together, it's almost like currency. Like, do you have a story to trade? do have an experience to trade, like I'll tell you something because I know you have something to give back.
Right.
If that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
That's an interesting way of
War
looking
stories,
at it.
Right? It's almost like currency.
It's like a
And
currency.
even in the beginning, it was still. I'm sure, just like for you, but even in the beginning, like I'm talking about episode 1, 2, 3, like just in the conception of this, it was still very weird for me to be talking about certain things, and especially because I had only told that first military story. I only told not even a handful of people about that.
Right.
So it wasn't until we started getting feedback, like, hey guys, like this shit's working. Like, hey, we like this for these reasons. Hey, I have these same, like you just see all the people that you're impacting, and then at that point you're like, okay, this has a purpose. Then, like it's not me just bragging.
No,
this is having an effect on people that I will never even meet in my life.
Yep.
And I will tell you honestly, John and I, Charlie and I, Matt and I, Mark, we can tell you those emails that we've gotten early on. I remember early on, I shared it with Elliot and John. Or no, you shared it with us. A friend of yours, somebody emailed the show and said, my husband's been a LAPD copper for 15 years. He's a sergeant. He won't tell me about his day. I'm his wife. I listened to your show, and I feel like I understand my husband better. And I was like, holy shit, it worked. like that's why we started this in the first place. Yeah. And even most recently, as I sat down with this Marine talking to him, he's like, yeah, but I didn't deploy. I said, no, I just want to talk to you about your experiences recently. And he's like, okay, fine. So we spent an hour talking. Literally 2 days after the show dropped, got an email. Thank you for that episode. I've been listening for a long time. My son is about to go into the Marines. He's signed up. He has his date to leave for boot camp. And I was really nervous and worried about what he was going to be facing. And at least now I know. At least now I know what he's up against. And it was one of those like, shit, man, no matter, like, even if we think it's insignificant, whether it's a traffic stop.
Someone else, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a guy on. Do you remember the guy we had? He spent 3.5 years at Camp Pendleton doing nothing. Charlie, maybe this was Charlie. Do you remember? We had a guy on. He spent 3.5 years at Camp Pendleton doing nothing. Then spent 6 months in Kuwait waiting for the first invasion of Iraq. And then ended up getting discharged. And then they invaded. Like he was over there and never actually got to invade.
Oh, it sounds familiar, but I don't recall off the top of my head.
And he was, like,
Poor bastard.
right?
Poor guy. Yeah.
But there's so many things that we go through in our daily life as law enforcement, right? To where, and I always go back to this one thing with my wife asking me, how many dead bodies have you seen? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
How often
Like,
does she ask you that?
when I was working, she asked me one day, she was like,
Keep your pants
called
strong.
me.
Tell her to shut the fuck up.
And I was like,
Just kidding,
I went
Charlie.
that way. And I asked her like, well, what do you mean? Like this week or the last month or my year? Or, like, what do you, she's like, no, ever. And I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
And I just gave her that answer and I just kept driving and I didn't talk anymore. And she's like, that's not fucking normal. And I'm like, well, look, there's things that we think that are really insignificant and like stories that we're like, whatever. But other people, when they hear them, they're like, holy fucking shit. Like, that's wild. And you're like, that's just another Tuesday or a Monday or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It's the regular person doesn't go through this shit and they don't go through like, they don't see this stuff. Even the stupid things, like the simple, just the old lady died. People died. Not many people have seen a dead body. Let alone not many people.
Let
have
alone
seen
an
one.
80-year-old woman that turns into an eggplant because it's 100 degrees in the summer and she's been down for a week.
Or has her 50 cats eating on her or something like that.
So okay, so let's we're about halfway through part 2, and this is war stories, and we promised some news stories. So we talked about short stories. We haven't done short stories in a while. So I thought I would seed the clouds a little bit and ask you guys, if I were to say to you, craziest or / worst TA you've ever been to, do you have a story that immediately comes to mind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Who wants to start?
I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the worst one, but definitely the most impactful
one that sticks out, right?
The one that sticks out. Do you guys remember the movie Colors?
I just watched
You all
the movie
do, right?
Colors
Okay. Do you remember the?
You just watched it?
again.
Oh,
Again,
I was like,
yeah.
no, no, no. Who
my
are you?
my daughter and her future husband had
gotcha,
not seen it, and so I was like, "You fucking need to see."
So
that movie.
the I can't remember his name, but the OG Hispanic. No,
Oh, no.
no, the OG Hispanic guy
short.
Yeah, the one.
got the-
Hodges.
Yeah.
I'm doing your
Yeah,
salad,
he's
Hodges.
dead.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, he died in a traffic accident.
And you were there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, went right through the windshield.
Oh,
fuck.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, that would like he's.
So it's not the worst one I've seen.
No, but
that one just
Yeah.
like, wait, that's
the guy from Colors.
and it was in that window of the late '80s,
no pun intended.
early '90s.
yeah, it was through the window.
That's a good one. See, I made a joke I didn't even know.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and it was in that time frame that
So the
when
movie
it was
'cause
really
the movie came out 85, 86.
yeah. I mean, it was right in the wheelhouse of what was actually happening at the time.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, that would make an impression. Like his face on the windshield.
He was in the movie. I know
True.
he's one of the OG White Fence gang members.
White Fence, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so he
have to
was
look
an
him up.
actor, but he was also an actual gang. He's like
No.
No.
In the movie, what I'm saying is, in the movie, he played the OG White Fence gang member.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so but the actor, it's not like Danny Trejo where he plays
No,
a gang
no.
member, but he's
He
actually
really
been
was.
the-
Yeah.
No. I don't think he was.
Danny Trejo is one of the first original Sanford gang members.
Yeah, Danny Trejo's legit. Like, if you don't know about Danny Trejo, I mean, that guy turned his life around. He's like 80 now. Something
Yeah.
like
He's
that.
my
Still
neighbor.
looks great.
He's my neighbor's uncle, dude.
Well, he's a huge figure in the city of San Fernando because that's where he grew up.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I got another one.
Okay.
So we got a call one day. This was toward the end of my career. We got a call one day to see if we could track a body.
Like a DB or a missing person?
Well, it's dead.
Unsure.
It's dead because they were looking for the other half of the part.
Oh, shit.
Like,
Okay.
well, it didn't really walk.
So not a whole body.
No. But then they found it. Yeah. So basically, it was on the 210 freeway. It was, the fucking car
Oh
exploded.
fuck!
What? You remember this?
I know this. Yeah.
Remember where they found the head? I mean,
No,
gosh,
no.
this is
Okay,
pretty
go ahead.
bad.
Oh yeah, no. On the fucking overpass.
It was on the overpass.
The sign.
Fucking Deadpool. It's up on the freeway
It
sign.
was up on the sign.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I was like, shut
Oh
the
my God, that
fuck
reminds
up.
me.
Like stuck on the sign?
Yes,
Holy shit!
Yeah.
yes, everything was down there.
Like fucking
It was up there.
Deadpool. He was there when I got here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the car.
Wow.
Pre-law enforcement, when I was driving, remember when I first learned to drive? I was driving Ann around, like to doctor's appointments and shit like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I don't remember if we were on the 405 or what freeway, but I remember we had saw a huge accident and a dude fly out of a car. Not like we weren't there to actually see him fly, but you could just see that kind of the explosion, and he ended up on the sign.
Wow.
Oh, I don't know.
The whole body, his whole body.
Yeah, for those of you who've seen Deadpool, we're talking about the scene where the guy gets flung up onto the freeway sign and then slides off of it later in the scene. That shit happens.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like maybe the writers in the movie didn't know it happens, but that shit fucking happens.
Yeah.
So I have something along those lines. And, this is reminiscent of when John worked San Fernando, because the San Fernando copper was chasing a vehicle, and
No crime, bro. I already know what you're gonna say. It's no crime.
chasing a vehicle on the fucking 210 freeway. Gets off at, I want to say, like Paxton or some shit. Or
No, he
Paxton.
wasn't chasing.
I don't know. The dude was running, right? And this fucking, he was in this, I guess he was an OG gangster, bald head, and he was in a convertible Mustang, no seatbelt, probably 110, 120, coming off the off ramp right there, and gets airborne coming off the off ramp, and car gets sideways, all four wheels hit, they skid, and then they spring him in the car like a trampoline towards the concrete stanchions of the overpass, and the car hits, and then you see the indent where his head hit. His head pops like a grape, and then he falls on the ground, the car falls on the ground, and then his brains go all over the street, and then the skull cap falls in a different area. And I remember walking over, and I'm looking, and everyone's like, stop. And I'm like, what? They're like, you're going to step on it. I'm like, step on what? They're like, his head. And I was like, his head? That's a fucking basketball covered in dirt, right? Because it looked like a deflated basketball. And then I looked underneath it because it was kind of like lifted, and you just see all the red. And I'm like, oh, that's his fucking head.
Yeah.
His head popped like a grape, and it just, people get ejected in crazy ass ways, and like their limbs fly off. And
So long.
but that one stuck with me.
So
for
long
about a
story
minute.
short, a unit did light that car up, and the guy took off, and he was like, "I ain't chasing that fool." And then,
And the guy fucked
Did-
himself up.
and then the guy thought he was still being chased, and then ultimately crashed. And then LAPD was like, let's get San Fernando over here." And basically, long story short, it was this pissing match between LAPD and San Fernando because
far
they're
as who
like, "You
started
guys
it.
caused this," and we're like, "No, we fucking didn't." And ultimately, San Fernando walked
CHP
away.
was also there.
Yeah.
Nice.
CHP ended up handling because it was their handle.
How about you, John?
I mean, I've never been to like, well, geez, what was it the other day? Literally, it was not even a week ago. It was like 4 or 5 days ago, right there off of the 90.
Oh, that big one?
Yeah. So basically,
The naked minivan guy?
yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh, what?
So-
what now?
So, I mean, like that. I guess I've seen like crashes where people's bodies are just all fucked up or whatever. But the one I'll tell you about this one, and then the one that sticks out in my head. So basically, this one the other day that happened on the 90. Dude's in a G ride. He's fleeing, and what he did was he tried to dodge a spike strip, and so he dodged it. But instead of going, I mean, he in the area that he tried to dodge it. I mean, it's just pretty much a straight down, for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So the van catches, flips, and the car started flipping right as it exited the asphalt, like literally on the dirt, right? And then rolled into the car dealership, and a monster trucked over like some a new car that was sitting right there. I'm sure was waiting for somebody to come pick up. Poor people. And
Want to get my new car.
but here's what's funny about this is that
Is that my car?
my shift's
not your
Not anymore.
my shift's done. I'm literally done, and I'm walking out with my partner or whatever, and I hear, because I'm scanning ISP, and I hear them in pursuit. And I hear which way they're coming, and I'm like, it's not my nature to just go home if I hear this coming.
I know,
So
goddammit. What's wrong with
I'm
us?
just going to cruise that way. I'm just going to cruise.
Unfortunately, that never changes.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. And so so I start going that way, and then I didn't actually see it, but like I could see over because I was close enough to where the dealership was, I could see just the fucking
The
dust and
yeah,
shit.
yeah.
And I'm like,
The
holy
carnage.
shit. I'm like, so I'm whipping around the corner, and literally the fucking car is in the dealership, like closer to the actual building, and it's just smoldering, and like I just feel like almost like you still have the shit coming down or whatever. and then I see where the guy had landed. Like, he got ejected out and just fucking boop, and just right on the ground. So I go running up to the guy. I mean, one pupil is the size of his eyeball, and the other one's super constricted, and the way he was obviously dead. He was obviously dead.
Right.
So as I'm like looking at him, I hear this like, and I'm like, the fuck? And I look, and I was like, oh shit, there's still someone in the car.
Oh my God.
So my partner goes to that chick, and she was fine. She's probably some broken bones or whatever, and she ends up living or whatever. But that was anyways, that's what happened to it. And he didn't get ejected naked. What happened was that when I put him in the recovery position, he's like 110 pounds, super skinny. So when I literally picked him up by his clothing, and it kind of just separated.
Oh, you sagging.
No.
And so
Yeah.
I guess I disrobed
him?
I guess. Like, so I didn't mean to do it,
He
but it
became disrobed.
You know what's funny about that is I was going to pick up my son-in-law just before that.
Oh, shit.
And I'm going down the 90, and I see out of the corner of my eye, I see someone creeping around under the underpass. And as I get close, it's a ISP guy with a spike strip in his hand. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Something's happening.
So now I'm looking in my rearview mirror,
Yeah,
right? Because
right.
I'm not going to get in the middle of this
No.
shit. Then I pass the second one. Another ISP guy, like in
guy.
the next. So I call my wife, and I'm like, hey, can you get on Facebook or whatever and see if there's a fucking pursuit coming up my ass? Because if there is, I
getting
want to
up,
make sure,
right.
because I'm looking, right?
Right.
It's like, no, there's nothing. There's nothing. And
Hadn't
then maybe
got
about
put
20
out.
minutes later, she calls me. She goes, yeah, you remember that spike strip thing? They're in the Chevy dealer.
How about you, Chris?
It's not a TC, but it involves cars. Is that cool? Yeah.
It's whatever's cool. I'm just.
It's what
using
popped
it
in
to
my
see the
mind. So I'm a NorCal copper, so we're up in the Emerald Triangle, if you know what I mean, and we're checking
where they
out.
grow weed.
Yes.
No.
So-
There's weed in California?
No, now they grow weed everywhere.
Oh, okay.
Hey, there's a fucking TV show about Jim Belushi growing weed in Oregon.
They have weed in Oregon?
It's just a TV show about his weed farm. Like, it's like fucking this old house, but hey, look at all the pot I'm growing.
Why not?
Anyway.
Anyway, see if you can picture out in the middle of nowhere, dirt road, pretty much single lane through the mountains, to like prime pot growing region. We're looking for this dude that's got a felony warrant, and he's got to grow. The grow is not a big deal, but he's got the warrant. So I was helping the task force out, and we're trying to put eyeballs on this dude, trying to find this one guy, and supposedly he's driving a white car. He runs from the cops any chance he gets. Real pain in the ass. And so we get there at like 4 a.m. and we, the sun comes up. We're watching this house. Nothing. No white car. And so we're like, okay, it's a bust. Let's get out of here. So we load up and we're heading back down the mountain. And like I said, like kind of single lane, like you can put a car and a half on the road, right? It's a regular mountain road. Dirt.
Like single lane.
Yeah,
almost,
single lane. Like you'd have to pull over pretty
Pull
hard
over
in the bar ditch to
kind of,
let the other guy go on. So we're cruising down. Now we're, we want to get home, so we're kind of going fast. And you got like 8 dudes fully kitted up, right? And a big goose egg, right?
Right.
So we're kind of bummed out.
So God forbid the person
God
who runs
forbid
a stop sign.
that person in the white car happens to be coming up the road the other direction, which is exactly what happened.
Oh, shit.
Like we can see him across the canyon. Now you're, 500-600 yards. You can see the other car coming up the canyon. Like, is that a white car? We're like half asleep.
Anybody in a white car at that point is fucked.
Oh, yeah, you're fucked. Well, when you're going out to this area, pretty high probability that's the guy we're looking for. So, like, did you see white car? Yeah, it's a white car. And then, like, another switchback, like, fuck, I think that might be him. Fuck, I think that is him. So as he gets closer, he comes around the bend, and we're in the very obvious white van. And, like why did we take this up here? Might as well say police on it. Right. And, fuck, that's him. Pull the van sideways, block the road. We jump out, guns on. Show me your hands, show me your hands. We open the driver's side door, yank him out. He's got his pants around his ankles.
What?
What the hell? What the hell? Oh, why is he all slippery? Oh,
what the fuck?
He was rubbing one out on the way back home, and he had his pants around his ankles.
No.
Yeah. When we drug him out of the car, when we pulled him out of the car, and he had the lube going and everything else, that's why he was all slippery.
Fuck.
Got dirt in it.
To get home?
I know. That's what we said.
Wow.
So anyway,
what weirdos out there.
I've literally never had the urge
you've
to
never
rub
had
one out in
something
the
like
car.
that?
Never had the urge to rub one out in the car.
Dude, I had a fucking guy in fish.
No, I said I've never had the urge to rub one out in the car.
Oh! I thought you said you never had a guy like you never.
No. I mean, I'm just saying. Like,
they rubbing one out in the car. What the fuck is it? Autoerotica? Like not autoerotica, but
it
like
is automobile erotica.
Automobile erotica, not autoerotica.
So I remember as far as TCs go, we had. Did I ever tell you about the case that ended up on Judge fucking Judy?
No.
Yeah, it's crazy. You were talking about the head being up on the sign. So my partner and I roll, and we get there. There's a car up on its roof, and there's a Good Samaritan and his girlfriend had pulled off to help, and then there's like a 14-year-old kid. He's just fucking freaked out. He's like, I don't know where she is. I don't know where she is. I don't know where she is. I'm like, you don't know where who is? I'm the first unit on scene. He's like, I don't know where my friend. She's driving. I don't know where she is. Like, okay, relax, calm down. We'll find her. It's fine. So I go, just keep him here. So I go walking over to the car.
Well, right away when you hear that, what's really going on in your head is, oh, shit. Right. That's what's really
saying to this 14-year-old kid, it's
oh, don't
fine.
worry, it's cool.
I'll find her.
Oh,
and I'm in my head, I'm going, in pieces. Right? Like, what the fuck? Because the car's upside down. And it's one of those Ford Explorer Sports. So it's, it's a little 2-door SUV. And I'm walking up, lights are still on, wheels are still turning, engine's still hot, dust is still in the air. It's just happened. And go up to the car, and it's fucking Wizard of Oz. I get to the passenger side, and I see feet and shoes underneath the roof, just sticking out from underneath the roof. And I'm like, fuck. So, and he's the little 14-year-old kid over there. Did you find her? Did you find her? I'm like, yes.
kind of. Sort of.
And I'm like, just stay over there. Just stay over there. So my partner rolls up right as I find the feet, Wizard of Oz style. And he comes up, and we've had him on the show. You guys have played Call of Duty with him. Wyatt was the primary on it. And he's like, what do we got? And I said, found the driver. And I just pointed to the feet, and he's like, oh, shit. So I said, I haven't taken any statements. So he goes over, he starts getting names, all that stuff. And I start handling the car. I go around to the driver's side and I see arms, right? I see shoulders and arms. So I've got the arms out on either side like Superman and the shoulders, no head. And I was like, fuck. And my initial instinct was, okay, this accident just happened. CHP helicopter has FLIR. There's a big empty field where this car flipped over. If I get FLIR here fast enough, maybe the helicopter can show me the hot spot where the head is, and we don't have to spend hours and hours out here with flashlights looking for this girl's head. And that was my first thought. And the fire department shows up, and I'm like, okay, so I'm just about to call for the helicopter. I'm briefing my partner. I walk back. The fire department's like, don't worry about it. And it had occurred to me there was no blood, right? But I also know traumatic amputations don't necessarily bleed a lot. Mm-hmm. Well, what happened was her head was still attached, but the back of her head was touching her sternum. So it had flipped around 180 degrees and folded under her body.
Damn, like a reverse scorpion.
And she came out of the car like a bobblehead. Just completely like, it was, what do they call it? Manual decapitation, non-severed
like
decapitation.
Like,
so basically, she had been decapitated for all intents and purposes. It's just her skin had not ripped,
detached,
ripped, right? Yep. And so she was 17, whatever. 6 months later, I'm in my living room, and I hear this story being told on TV. My wife was watching Judge Judy, and the lady's like, yeah, she took my car, and my 14-year-old son's in the passenger seat, and then she's driving to see one of her friends, and the car flips, and I'm like, time out. And I start looking. Sure enough, black family on the left, white family on the right. It was a black girl driving, white 15-year-old passenger, 14-year-old passenger. So the mother of the dead girl was being sued by the woman whose car it was.
For the car?
For the car.
Oh my gosh. Oh, man.
What the case had happened, this girl had been Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So she was down in Inglewatts, got shipped up to where we were to live with her auntie so she would stay out of trouble. But you move a kid, there's tendencies are still the same. What's that old expression? I won't say it.
Don't say it.
And so the big aunt worked with this white gal. They worked in the driveway together, or they worked in an office together. Had a big barbecue. Aunt comes over with her daughter, or with her niece. Introduces her. Oh, hey, this is my coworker's 14-year-old kid. They're the only two kids, so they just start talking together. 17-year-old starts drinking, and then says, "Hey, can we go listen to music?" And the 14-year-old goes and says, "Hey, Mom, can we have the keys to go out in the car and sit in the car and listen to music?" So, sure, Mom gives him the keys to go sit in the car and listen to music. 17-year-old sits in the driver's seat, keys in the accessory position, turns on the stereo, and the 17-year-old goes, "Fuck it." Starts the car. Let's go visit one of my friends. Driving drunk, rolls the car, flies out the window. She's not wearing a seatbelt. Car kills her. The mother of the 14-year-old who owns the car is suing the parents of the dead girl for the cost of the vehicle on Judge Judy.
Wow. Jesus.
Yeah. So that probably is one of the, that's not the, there's another TC that I'll save for another story that's a full episode because it's a lot more involved. But that one, like how many times do you are you walking through your living room and you hear Judge Judy telling some woman, "You're despicable, get the fuck out of my courtroom. I can't believe you're doing this." And you're like, that was my case.
That's just weird.
Yeah, that's super weird. I'm also not surprised.
Also not surprised.
Yeah.
Not a lot of surprise there, but how much does it take to surprise you these days? Right?
Not much.
No, a lot.
No.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
To be surprised?
To be
To
surprised?
be surprised.
No. I've lost total faith.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, we're saying
nothing can surprise you at this
Right,
point.
yes.
The level it would take to surprise me has gone so far beyond
Right.
that it's almost impossible. My wife tells me, "Can you believe this happened?" I'm all,
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
well, this is also part of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, well, how about this? Also, yes.
I still have in my garage. It was funny. If you go to my garage, I have a street sign from San Fernando. It was the last TC I worked before I left. And I remember, this is quick.
Allegedly.
Huh?
You allegedly have a street sign?
Allegedly. I may or may not have one. Whatever. I fuck. And
Let him come get it.
and what were they gonna do? Repost it? It's all fucked up. Anyways,
It was trash.
And honestly, even if they did, the chief of police offered me my police car door, the one that got shot up in my last shooting, so I could take it.
Oh, really?
You should have taken it.
Yeah, why didn't you take that?
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. I just didn't.
You just want it out.
It was the last thing on my fucking.
With a fucking door?
Hang that shit on your wall. It would look good in this bar.
It would. I'll reach out. I bet you it's still there. It's in city shops. I bet you it's still there. Anyways, okay. So, long story short,
I'll pay the shipping. The show will pay the shipping.
It'll be like Hard Rock Cafe, John.
Yeah, right.
Visit here for a little while, then go to your place for a while.
Maybe
and-
my Dodge Ram
Yeah.
still got some glass
there you
that I
go.
can.
I'll reach out. I'll see if they have it. We heard a loud explosion, and pretty much literally 30 seconds later, accident comes out, and my partner and I roll up on it, and it was what you would imagine it was some sort of Mercedes, nicer Mercedes, that had center punched one of the thicker telephone poles. Telephone pole did not move at all. So basically, the pole is like halfway down the Mercedes, and everything else is just wrapped around. We got one guy outside of the car, just like, what the fuck happened? You could tell he's deuce as hell. And the other kid, my partner's dealing with him, and I go and I see that there's another kid in there just kind of moaning. And I walk up, I'm like, hey man, are you good? Like, 'cause he's pinned, but he's like pinned like at his legs. And he like looks up at me, and I'm like, are you good? Like, do you need, like, what do you need? And he's like, and he opens his mouth and just teeth just like poured out of his mouth, and like all the blood started going. I was like, okay, do not talk. Right. I was like, just don't say anything. Just sit there, and then we're gonna be good. You're good, man. You're gonna make it.
Yeah.
He ended up making it, but literally all of his teeth fell out all at one time.
Okay, so I won't tell again. The one TC, the biggest TC that sticks out in my mind is very similar to that, where you get to the victim and you're like, oh god. Okay.
Yeah,
you're still alive. Let's keep it that way. Here's some things we need to do. So, well, shit. That's episode 200, part 1 and part 2. What a fucking ride it's been. I mean, we're still doing it. We're doing it 1,300 miles away from where we started.
That's crazy.
And yet here we are. Except for Charlie, unfortunately. We'll get you here.
Charlie, maybe we can make a GoFundMe for you, and then everyone can just put some money in together and get you up here.
I don't need a GoFundMe. I have kids.
Oh, your
And a
kids can fund it?
divorce.
You need a divorce? Is that what you said?
No, I've been through a divorce.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
kids I have to worry about.
For sure.
I can't let some other man raise my son. You know what I mean? Or my daughter, for that matter. So
Yeah.
they're important. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick it out until I can get out with them. Hopefully, when my daughter graduates. But
Well, I appreciate all of you guys for having listened to the show and been on the show, both at this table and the people listening. I will say this. We normally give our guest a chance to dedicate their episode to somebody, but we don't really have a guest. It's all of us recurring assholes. So I would like to dedicate and see if I can get a amen from the table, but I want to dedicate this episode to everybody that's out there still doing it. If you're listening to this episode and you're pushing a black and white, or you're trying to squeeze in a nap between fire calls or medical aids, if you're staring down the paperwork on your own lobster claw because you're working the bus and the cops have to call you out to hold someone's head together, if you're overseas, or if you're here at home and you're on your base, missing your family on a deployment, this episode is for all of you guys. That's what I think we should dedicate it to.
Yep. Amen to that.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I agree.
So I just want everybody out there. I know we dropped this episode at midnight, or midnight 30 every night because I deliberately drop it. I've told you guys this. Deliberately drop it in the middle of the night for everybody working graveyard shift, so they have everybody knows how lonely graveyard shift can get. So if you get an hour of a friendly voice in the middle of the night to get you through your shift, to keep you safe, to keep you awake, to keep you alert, and we're that voice, cool. This episode will be out to all you guys because, you guys are the reason we keep doing it. Those emails have kept us going more than once. I don't know. Chuck, any parting thoughts on our 201st episode?
Yeah, for all those guys out there that are men and women alike are still out there pushing a black and white, or if you're sitting in your rig and whatever, we feel your pain. Just keep fighting that good fight, man. I mean, know that you're doing the greater good a favor, and you're doing mankind a favor, and you're doing the Lord's work. So just keep on it. Even when you're eating those dinners on the hood of your car, you make it possible for everybody else to sleep safe at night. So keep that up. For everybody else, thank you for listening. We appreciate the support. And if you want to support us, you can go to our website.
No, we're not done yet, Charlie.
No, it's fine.
I'm fucking with him.
Oh, well, I figured that was the end.
Say all that stuff. Yeah, go to our website.
But yeah, go to our website at www.warstoriesofficial.com. Grab some gear. You can also go to our Instagram at war_stories_official and our Facebook at War Stories Podcast. Follow us, share info on our posts. And if you want to be featured on the show, please go to booking.warstories@gmail.com and send me your story. I can get you booked. We are looking for law enforcement, corrections, dispatchers, fire, medics, and veterans, as well as ER staff like nurses and doctors. Tell your crazy stories on the full moon. If you have any friends who you think would be a great fit, let them know about us and give them our booking email. Again, thank you for the support and stay safe.
Chris, anything you want to say to all listeners on this anniversary episode?
It's like I want to say before, how I found War Stories was I was just like looking for that one little niche. Like I want to hear some stories, man. I want to hear stories that I can jive with. And that's exactly how I found this podcast. Was, man, this clicked with me, and that's how I started listening to it. Just because I was in I'm not going to say desperate, but for lack of a better term, desperate search for a
connection.
For a connection, yeah, absolutely right. And that's how I found it, and I'm sure people are finding it all the time. And I like to, have some of my friends. I'm not going to name them by name right now, but I'm going to try to, prod them a little bit to get on here because they got some good stories.
Yeah. Elliot, any parting words of wisdom for? Everybody loves to hear from you. So
No, it's good.
I could make you your own show.
Why do you say that?
People love you.
You know what's interesting about that? There's a conversation we had when we were talking. Was it on the first half of this? Or
Yeah.
I never really realized that anybody really gave a shit.
Yeah.
And even when they were talking to me about, no, you got to come on, and I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, who cares, really? Who gives a
Right.
shit? Well, I didn't really realize how many people gave a shit.
They do.
Yeah, I really didn't.
It's heartening a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, that's true. So, it's just, it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Being back, looking back at where it started.
Yeah. Especially this far in the future.
Literally.
In a completely other state.
Yeah.
Like, who would have seen this coming?
Right?
John, the man who helped me start this whole fucking thing.
Yeah. I guess I'm that guy. You guys already said it. I just think it's cool to be sitting here 201 episodes later and literally remembering where I was on the first single episode. And then everyone we've met along the way via phone call, via the internet, at a 511 store in what city was that? I forgot what city
shit.
It was a drive.
Yeah, it was an hour and a half drive.
So I guess what I'm getting, or even you getting to go, and I had to work, but remember you got to go on what's his name?
Dennis
show?
Miller.
The Dennis Miller show.
Dennis Miller show.
I remember that. Yeah.
That helped a lot.
A
Like
lot.
that
It
blew
was
up
huge.
this show.
I
It was
remember
absolutely
that.
huge. So, it's just kind of cool seeing the whole transformation just over the years, and it's been a cool journey. And I know that I've been kind of not as big of a part of it.
You've had some shit going on.
Yeah, but still, seeing how everything has evolved, and just being able to meet in some way, shape, or form all the people we have been able to meet along the way. A lot of cool people, some douchebags. But,
That's the job.
yeah. But
But we
a
have
lot of
over,
cool
we
people.
have over.
And-
let me tell you how many downloads. We have over 1 million downloads.
Yeah,
Over
awesome.
1 million.
It's awesome.
I'll give you. Go ahead.
No, really, and I was just kind of reiterating that before all this started, it was really who gave a shit.
Right.
Who gave a shit? But it really is cool to see that people do care, not about us. I'm saying like people care about each other. Not we care about John and Tom and Charlie because they're saying these things and
Right.
no, people care about each other because we've put people that were hurting in contact with other people we've met to just help out as a community. So yeah.
We have been downloaded 1,374,000 times.
That's
and
crazy.
change.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's wild.
Yeah. Keep in mind, there's only 700,000 cops in the entire country, and 1.5 million soldiers globally. We have a lot of listeners in other countries. We have a lot of listeners. So it's humbling to be a part of your guys' daily existence. We don't know you, and yet I know you guys feel like you know us. And we want to say that whenever you send us messages, whenever you send us emails, whenever you connect with us, we're happy to hear it because that lets us know you a little bit more, and lets us know that we're still connecting with people. So I guess until our next episode, come on with your shield or on it.